Member for Surrey White Rock.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The Premier's failed 10-year housing plan was scrapped yesterday and replaced by a refresh strategy that many are finding to be completely anything but refreshing. It was more of a desperate attempt to fudge the numbers and hide his own abysmal record. With now a throwback to the 1990s, the NDP has opted for a budget approach to their housing strategy. The reality is this two-term, 6-year NDP government has only managed to deliver a mere 7% of the NDP's 114 promised homes. I rounded up to be charitable. And we now have the highest housing prices ever in the history of this province. This Premier, as we all know, was Housing Minister for 2 years. How can anyone trust a Premier who is so willingly, blatantly fudging numbers when it comes to hide his own housing strategy?
Members, be careful about the language that you portray your question. Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker, and thank you to the member for the question. I think, when I talk to British Columbians, if there's an issue that's front and centre for so many people, it's the fact that they're looking for a home and they can't find one they can afford, whether they're looking for one they can buy or they're looking for a place they can rent, it's close to work, that's good for their family, that's good for their personal needs. It is one of the major challenges we face in BC, and the member knows the reason why. We've seen a massive increase in our population in the province. We set a record last year, a 60-year high. This year, the first 2 quarters, we're breaking last year's records. All these folks need a place to live. And so our 10-year housing plan is about bringing on more homes faster. I'm thrilled that we've delivered 42,000 units. Without our government's policies, 42,000 people would not have homes. And that as just one example of the kind of housing that the members won't count when they analyze our numbers. Student housing, and we know why that is. When they were in power, 16 years, they built 130 student housing beds. They don't count student housing as housing. We do. It's in our numbers, Honourable Speaker.
Members.
And those are some of the 42,000 people who are housed because of our policies.
Member for Surrey White Rock supplemental.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Well, let's be clear. After 6 years and 2 election campaigns promising housing affordability, the results are the highest housing prices and the highest rents this province has ever seen. It's a fact. It's a fact. What's also a fact is that you now need to earn over $270,000 to be able to afford a home in Vancouver. That's a fact. Renters are paying over $4,300 more a year under this NDP government. That is a fact. So instead of getting housed, people are getting hosed by this Premier and this NDP government, and it's completely acceptable. So my question to the Premier is a direct one. Will he accept responsibility for manipulating the numbers of his housing plan and admit that he has absolutely failed in every measure possible when it comes to housing affordability that his government has promised?
Premier.
Thank you, Honourable Speaker. When we're talking about the 42,000 people, they're now living in homes that wouldn't be living in them without our government's interventions. About 20,000 of those people are living in homes that used to be vacant under the policies of the previous government. Now, it was painful. We stood up, when we were in opposition, we stood up again and again and we said, why aren't you taking action on absentee investors in our housing market that are leaving homes vacant, using homes as safe deposit boxes? They didn't take action, Honourable Speaker. We did. We brought in the speculation and vacancy tax. 20,000 people housed, at least, as a result. In my constituency, previously empty mansions under the other government, now filled with students from UBC that are renting those places. And so when I look at what we've done, and when I look at what they did, I know that we've got a lot more work to do, but we're definitely on the right track, Honourable Speaker, because we're prioritizing housing for people, not for speculators and investors,
Members.
which was the #1 priority on the other side of the House.